Bom dia a todos nós, flores do dia. If you clicked on this video, you are going to be a first-time captain on NovaRO's Draft Woe, or at least interested in doing so. And that's great, we need more and more people taking the initiative. Getting straight to the topic, what makes a good draft captain? What needs to be done in order to have a satisfactory Draft Woe experience? In this brief tutorial, we'll go through the most important mental notes you gotta have when signing up as a captain, and how to minimize the stress of going on this task for the first time. Note that I'll try to make this as generalized as possible in order to keep the video relevant even with players or meta changing. Before going further, we must address what is the draft captain's job. A captain will, first of all, pick the players on the picking phase and later shot call during the war itself. While it's not mandatory that you shot call solo, you must have a working microphone and talk during the pick phase and War of Imperium. Most people think that the hardest or most crucial part of being a captain is your shot call abilities during WoW. While that may be true in actual competitive WoW with the big guilds, Draft WoW is a special case. From my perspective, the picking phase is responsible for the majority of times that Draft WoW was very unbalanced and unfun, because newbie or unsuspecting captains did not pick properly and either let all the power picks go away or formed an inefficient guild comp. While renewal PvP may depend even more on individual skill than pre-renewal, having a solid team comp can do wonders, even if none of the players are actually out of the curve in terms of play skill. So, how to plan a good guild composition? Well, if you're new, I'd suggest sticking to the current PvP meta. While sometimes out of meta comps work, pulling this off requires experience and creativity that are not to be expected of a newbie leader. To create a stable team comp, what you can do the time prior to the picking phase is going into the NovaRO's website and checking the WoW tab. There you can see the history logs of all the recent War of Imperiums that happened, included past draft woes. Based on this, you can check the team comps used by the most dominant guilds, being the ones that with high defense time or damage dealt, and mimic that. You can also use this tool to check which are the most powerful players in recent draft woes, really making the task of picking capable DPSers and supports much easier. Try securing low attendance meta jobs picks before they run out. It may be better for your team to have Devo with average DPS than letting a top tier DPS undevoed. To make things even easier, here are the recent comps used by the top 3 guilds current playing WoW. Continuing on the topic, the draft captain has the tool of freely checking the gears of every player in the picking area. This will help you analyze who has the best gears for the job and would be a strong pick. Note that it is against the rules to hide your gears or use ones that are far from the reality, so you can and should report any players doing so. And that's it for the picking phase. Remember to keep your posture and ask in guild chat for the help of the people you picked if you're still unsure about the next steps. It would be great if there were a guide that would teach you how to be a great shot caller, but that's trickier than it seems. While shot calling is not necessarily hard, being good at communicating and having fast, reacting skills to changes in the environment is a skill that's usually learned through practice and practice. Maybe there's no magic recipe for that. What can be shared is a general basis of what you can do as a leader doing War of Imperium. Initially, it should be reiterated that you are not obliged to be the solo shot caller of your team. You can pick players that are willing to help and are communicative, and this will probably help you out a lot. If you know some of those players, pick scouts that use their microphones so they can give you valuable information on what's going on ahead of your position. In the very core of shot calling, you're either asking your guild to group up, move, attack, or retreat. Those are the most used commands during WoW, and honestly, they're enough to accomplish a solid experience. Try to avoid being silent for too long. You don't need to talk all the time and interrupt your teammates, though look for non-chaotic environment and voice and make yourself be heard on the heated times. When you are dead, try to let your teammates be talkative and passing information meanwhile you reach your guild again. And if possible, have a trusted person to take over calls when you're not there. If you are not sure what to do, always talk out loud what you're thinking and ask your guild to either regroup outside of the castle or in some point inside the castle. Ask your scouts about the other guild's position and plan based on that. Usually, entrance camping doesn't generate any benefits for your guild, since it usually helps the defending one. So only fight the other guild at entrance if you're rushing to take the amp and want to get there first. What you should aim for is using your adversaries in your favor. If you think the enemy guild pushing has a stronger attack than you, try to make it go first and push it right after them. Considering the fact that the defending guild will have a much harder time organized against two pushes in a row. Avoid fighting useless fights along the castle, unless you're pretty sure you'll survive the offense without losing key jobs and need to get to a point before the enemy guilds. When defending, always indicate what flag your guild needs to warp to, and it's usually the third barricade one, and ask them to put traps on the passages. It's also extremely important to make it clear who has the job of killing people that go through the defense, in order to avoid everyone moving out of their formation to chase a single player. Define who's staying in front and who's staying on the back. Every defense needs a solid front line, normally composed of support jobs and damage soakers, like rune knights and genetics, but not exclusive to those. Constantly ask your guildmates about important cooldowns that will help the defense or attack, such as stasis, bloody lust, intense telekinesis, self-destruction, and so on. As shot callers, it is also your job to think about your most important guild skill cooldown, emergency calling. What it does is granting the guild leader the ability to teleport all online guild members to the location of the leader. This can be used to sneak your whole team through a defense or regroup easily inside the castle. The caller job is usually done by Asura, but if you don't have one willing to do it, other classes with good mobility can too, like Genetic or Stalker. Remember that communicating with your e-caller is essential, so pick one that uses his mic preferably. As said before, e-call is used to sneak through the defense of the holder guild, but you can also use it to generate a double push, if your e-caller is having trouble going through the defense. What matters is not holding on to the cooldown of the skill too much, since it can be used every 5 minutes. In defending, you can ask your e-caller to stay put in a strategic area in case your defense falls, saving you time in preparing to the next defense. Try to always tell your teammates what you want them to do. Name the classes out loud and ask them to do a specific job, be it the sorcerer to use LP during a push, or the performer to groom a problematic enemy. What matters is giving your team a goal and clear instant objectives. Oh, and before I forget, one last thing. It's very important to give enough time for your team to buff up before the boosters, being the EB buffs, Lux Anima, Piety, and etc. So remember that also. And that's it for this video. I hope you were able to get the general idea of being a captain, and it helped a little. While it does not contain all the answers needed, I hope it serves as a good head start into your experience. Winning Draft WoW is definitely not mandatory, and being a captain can be a very fun and rewarding activity if done with the right mindset. So, see you all around! Cheers!